We built a substation in Kansas in less than 6 months. That was a couple years ago. That's when equipment was more available, but we did build that substation in less than 6 months. If you used one of the larger firms, you would have been probably 1.5 to 2 years to get it built.
We are live at the Midwest Solar Expo. The Suncast Media Zone is brought to you by Solar Simplified. I'm your host, Nico Johnson, and I'm joined today by Dan Girard, the founding partner and CEO of Alternative Power Generation. Dan, good to see you.
Nice seeing you, Nico.
Absolutely. I've been wonderful. It's been a little while since we've had a chance to sit down.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. It's been a couple years since you and I have been together.
It has been. Dan, since that time, when you were at the time running the entire EPC group for a well-known electrical firm called S&C Electric, you and several of your colleagues have stepped out and formed your own company. Tell me a bit about that decision to leave S&C and really focus on building what is now APG as an EPC company.
Yeah, we basically were heading different directions. S&C is a great company. We enjoyed working there for many years, but over time, they wanted to focus more on equipment and less on EPC. The group we had was very much driven to be an EPC company, and we determined at that point in time that we should separate and form our own company and basically go after EPC, focusing a lot on renewables, but also microgrids and also data centers, including substations.
You've got 4 partners. Help me understand the makeup of that, the structure, kind of like where each partner leans in and the expertise that each one brings to the table.
Sure. I mean, we've got, I'll start with the Alis. I've got 2 brothers that work with us, Syed Ali. S. Ali is the head of engineering and is our CTO. And then Syed Z. Ali is the head of our estimating group. So it's great when you got engineering and estimating able to work together.
Oh, yeah.
It's a rare occasion, by the way.
Yeah.
It works really well. And then when Ed Postilnik is the other partner, and Ed heads up our construction side. And then I'm in charge of business development.
Business development, all the relationships.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, I heard at some point that you guys have more than 4 decades of experience working with utilities. So I'm sure that comes in handy for the business development side.
It really does. I mean, one of the things we've done is through our past history, we've all worked with utilities for a number of years, which that plays in well when you're building like a substation for a utility, or excuse me, building a substation for a data center or a substation for a renewable. We've all worked with the equipment. We've worked with equipment suppliers, and we've worked directly with the utilities. So that helps a lot to have that background when you go to meet with a customer, help support them with the utility interconnect.
A question that probably comes up a lot is, why would I work with APG when I could work with a Burns Mac, or, you name sort of the big time, big name, well-recognized EPCs, yet routinely data centers and operators are referring folks to APG. Could you help us understand and unpack that?
A lot of that has to do with, we are much quicker and nimbler than people that are large companies. Large companies take a lot of feedback. They go back and forth. We can build items like we built a substation in Kansas in less than 6 months. That was a couple years ago. That's when equipment was more available, but we did build that substation in less than 6 months. If you used one of the larger firms, you would have been probably 1.5 to 2 years to get it built.
Yeah.
We basically worked with our past history, and we build a lot of equipment that we specify and use to get the results that the customer's looking for.
Well, those results are focused in a couple of different areas, but EPC is the main focus of the firm. You mentioned to me that you are focused on data centers and a few other areas. The question that comes up for me as I listen to the experience that your team brings to the table is, well, why not just focus on the thing that you are so well known for, which is substations? You guys are wizards at the transformer side of the business, the breakers, and we'll get into kind of why that is, but why not just focus on that that niche, which is a quite lucrative niche?
The interesting one is, Nico, we feel the industry needs more diversity. And when we build a substation, it is a lumpy type process, right? It'll take 2.5 years to build.
Yeah.
While at the same point in time, we can build a microgrid, we can build solar, we can build battery energy storage systems, which our team has built battery energy storage systems since 2006.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of experience with that type. So we look at it that a substation is great. We're more than happy to build anybody's substation we can build. But at the same point in time, we feel for the industry, we can help fill in the other areas as we move forward.
Dan, you mentioned doing battery energy storage all the way back to 2006. You've done 26 microgrids as a part of the work that you all have tackled. Where do you see as the most underserved market right now with regards to the level of work that you all are doing at EPC? Where do you think that there's the most opportunity?
Okay, if I look at, let's focus on solar for one moment. Solar below 1 megawatt, rooftops, items like that is a well-served market.
Yeah.
Above 50 megawatts, you got a lot of large firms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them here, in fact, today, who basically 50 megawatts and larger, they look and they go, I want to build these very large plants. We look at that 1 megawatt to 50 megawatt as an underserved market.
Okay.
We try to focus on underserved markets. The other one is when we look at carports, we do a number of carports for folks as part of a microgrid.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we'll build a carport, we'll have energy storage, and we'll basically work with the utility to basically build a microgrid for customers that are looking at how they're going to improve the system over time and basically be available even during a disaster situation,
right,
and be able to come up and run.
Yeah. For those who are unfamiliar, give us a layman's explanation of what the microgrid is.
So a microgrid is a combination of a utility interconnect, normally some sort of generation, normally renewable piece, and almost always lately it's included a battery.
Yeah.
So it includes a number of components, and then you got a key functionality that you got to keep a certain load up and running.
Yeah.
And your goal is to keep that load up and running by using a microgrid technology, which is really the software that looks and says, what is the best part to bring in at this point in time?
Right.
And so if I got solar available, for example, you really want to bring solar on first.
Yeah.
Because solar is your least expensive resource you can have.
Yeah.
And then at the same point in time, if it's at the end of the day, you start bringing your energy storage system in. And then last resort is you bring in the utility source. So that's a good example.
Where do you see microgrids becoming more prevalent in the marketplace? Is there a particular kind of customer?
No, that's the one thing that we always say is if you've seen one microgrid,
you've seen one
microgrid. And it's really true. I think one of the guys I used to work with, David Chiesa, coined that term. And it is really true that if you've seen one microgrid, you've seen one microgrid. The biggest thing you got to do is sit down with the customer and say, what is your ultimate goal?
Yeah.
What do you want to happen? And where do you want it? Like right now, we're working on one that's on an island off of Maine.
Wow.
And they're trying to figure out that they've got one underground or underwater feeder that comes off the mainland. And if that underground feeder goes out, how they're going to continue to run. How do they run?
Wow.
What do they got? Yeah. And generators, everyone goes, oh, just put a generator out there. But in the new world, you want to do as much as you can using renewable sources.
Yeah.
And PV plays in on that. And then energy storage systems support that. And then in the very end, you say, okay, fire up the generators. We got generators as a backup.
Yeah, so generators is kind of a yes and part of the microgrid solution. Certainly today, a lot of cogen going into most of the microgrids I've seen. One of the areas we talked about, and I asked, well, why not just focus on substations? You guys are substation experts. Are there particularly tricky, long lead items in the substation world that you guys constantly find customers just relatively unaware, and it's going to trip them up, it's going to slow their project down? What are those items, and how do you all address those slowdowns?
So we currently work with a number of clients. I'll focus on data centers because that's probably the easiest because they've got multiple sites going in.
Yeah.
With that, a transformer currently is sitting out over 2.25 years to buy a transformer and get it into your facility.
2.25.
2.25.
Wow. So we're talking over almost 60 months.
60.
Oh, no, it's not 60 months. So
it's 122 weeks.
Jeez. 122 weeks.
So it's a long time to get a large transformer. The other one is high voltage breakers.
Yeah.
And then we normally, on the 35 kV side, we build the complete package with the control house, built out ahead of time where we can do a FATS test ahead of time at the factory, which is basically a test where we run through every scenario, do all the relaying, we do all the operations before it ships to site. We have queue spots with one company that we build those ahead of time. That helps us to get everything in time.
Yeah.
The high voltage breaker is an interesting one because we have people approaching us now who are going back into the business of making high voltage breakers, and we're able to get them probably 6 months earlier than other people are.
Oh, wow.
Because of that relationship we have.
So we've got the substation or the transformer itself that's on a 122-week lead cycle right now. And the breakers, which is a separate part of the puzzle, is how long typically?
That's normally been 80
plus weeks.
Yes.
And you're able to reduce it down to?
We're able to reduce it down to like 40 weeks right now.
I was like, so cutting lead times in half, basically.
Yes, we are.
Essentially, that is phenomenal. Again, why not just focus on substations? It seems that certainly is a core focus, and I can understand why utilities and other large scale customers are referring folks to you guys. Certainly, if you have that inside track, and it allows you to get the foot in the door. It's the old Trojan horse, right? It's that thing that you get that you have as a strategic advantage that allows you to begin the conversation about, well, we should really be doing the whole project for you.
Yeah, it really does help if we're building the substation that people look and go, okay, what else can you guys do for us?
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes down to BESS systems, battery energy storage systems.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm using acronyms.
That's all right.
And then at the same point in time, we have expertise in that. It also helps with the lumpiness. So a substation is very lumpy. When you're building multiple subs, they become lumpy. For our clients and for our employees, we feel that it's important that we have diversity.
Yeah, of course.
That we basically break in all the markets. We help people where we can and build those systems in conjunction with each other wherever we can.
As we wrap up, I had a quick question about something I noticed at your booth here at the Midwest Solar Expo. It's a napkin that has APG on it, of course, and it says napkins are for doodling. Talk to me about this concept of doodling and how you integrate it into your customer experience.
Sure. So, a doodle is basically where a lot of things begin. The reason they used a napkin is because a lot of things actually begin on a bar napkin.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, but it does. People will come and they'll sit down and they'll say, hey, I'd really like to talk to you about a concept I have.
Yeah.
And you'll sit down and you'll start talking about, okay, what is the concept? And a good example of this is I've had folks come to me and say, I've got the utility wanting to build it at 230,000 volts and then transfer over to 345. We'll design the substation so it's built to 345 standard, but we'll use 230 kV products. That helps the client to get it built quicker. But then when the transfer time comes in, we can transfer over. A little bit like a microgrid. People will come in and say, I want a battery. And you say, okay, what do you want a battery for?
Yeah.
And they'll go, I want a battery. So you got to figure out where the revenue streams are and what is the best way to use that battery system. And we have the people in-house to help do that. We have a lot of people. I mentioned Syed S. Ali earlier. Syed S. is a guy who's got a lot of background in microgrids and has built a lot of microgrids. So we depend on him when it comes to helping a client, how they're going to build it, what we're going to build from there.
Well, few have had the experience and the depth of counterparty conversations as you and your team at APG. Dan Girard is co-founder, partner, and CEO of APG, Alternative Power Generation. Hope the folks will check out what you do. Thanks for taking time to sit with us today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Nico.
Absolutely.